Today I'm going to be installing a kit that completely lines the inside the bed of my truck with Molle panel. Test Studio is the same place where I've gotten all the other Molle panel designs I've had for my truck. This is now the 4th different accessory I've gotten. So I do have the bed divider there. I do have the little corner panels up in the corners of the truck, as well as the Molle panels in the front of the truck that I just put in a few days ago. So when I saw these come available, it kind of became a no-brainer that I'd try these next. That's what today is. So this kit comes in 6 different pieces. I've kind of laid them out as where they would go throughout the truck, as you can kind of see here. But I have a few questions that I'll answer with you that maybe you'll have also. How would it affect the bed divider that I already have in here? How does it affect the mat I have in here? How does it affect the different anchor points? How does it affect the little brackets I have for my Cyber tent? And then lastly, how does it affect those corner panels? I'll answer all those questions as part of today's install. So I chose to lay these all out about where they would go, pretty similar to how I do anything of the sort. So a couple things are going to help you make sure you get these in the right spot. As you'll notice, the one with the rectangle right away is going to go to the rectangle of where your power outlets are in the back of the truck. A couple other ways to spot where these little panels are going to go, where 3 of these have a little rectangular cutout. That's going to be to where these little anchor points on the truck are. So just know if you find these, they're going to match up on the passenger side of each side, and then the one on the driver's side, again, way back up towards the cab of the truck. First thing you're going to do is you're going to use the little included 13mm wrench, and you're going to take out all 4 of these little bolts in the anchor points. These are in pretty tight. The available tool does work just fine. In fact, it's all I use throughout this install, but if you have something more powerful, feel free to use it. These bolts are in fairly tight, as they should be because they're anchor points for your truck. Once you have that, you're going to put together the first 2 panels. Now you're going to see here, the first panel is going to lay over top of what is the middle panel. Once you have that in place, you're going to put a screw down into the back panel through the front. And then once you have it together, I kind of line it up to make sure it's in place as it should be. Then you're going to connect the last panel closest to the cab to that middle panel. Now they both have a little L lip on each side. You're putting the screw through a hole in the back panel into the threads on the front panel. Make sure to start these screws by hand and not with the wrench. This speaks not to the low quality of the screw, but to the extreme angle you have to put it in, where it's going to be really easy to cross thread. So you're essentially taking these 3 edge pieces and making them one big piece. Now a couple tips: make sure this front piece, it's the only way it's going to work, but make sure it goes on top of the back piece, and create the same steps on the other side. So while the steps on the right side were the same exact, I tried a different approach by putting them in all with the bracket standing upright. I'm not sure one way worked better for the other, so it's kind of use whatever works best for you. So we pulled this big bolt out of where this little tie down bracket is. Now we're going to put this little J bracket in that place against the wall. It's going to give us 2 places to screw the other tables into when we get to in just a second. It's easiest to use the wrench with the small end facing out until you get it mostly in. Then you can use the leverage to snug it in tight. And I went ahead and did this on all 4 corners. And you will want to get this tight because you could potentially anchor really heavy things with this over the uses on your truck. So get it in good. More on this later, but I did have to remove what was the end bracket that my Cyber tent would set on to install this. So next, now that I have these all 3 put into place as one big piece, I'm going to use 2 screws to fasten it into this little J bracket that we put on earlier. Putting these screws in, I took the same approach as I did with the vertical panels. I started them by hand and then snugged them down with the wrench. These screws are very susceptible to cross-threading. In fact, I did one on my own just on accident. Then same thing, 2 more screws into the J hook you put in the base of the truck. Now up near the cab of the truck, it's a little tighter, so I had to break my own rule, and I actually started these by using the tool and not by hand. Be extra careful, make sure you're not hitting any resistance or you could be cross-threaded. Then the same steps on the passenger side of the truck, 2 screws in the front, 2 screws in the back. So next, you're going to have 6 of these little L brackets with these little screws in the end. These are going to go, of course, in the front, middle, and the back, 3 on each end. So the bracket of these long panels here is going to sit on top of the L here, and these little round things are going to slide back into this. So these are going to fit in this little track here, and they're going to want to slide back and forth. However, when you get them, they're going to come in here tight like this. When you put them in, they're not going to have enough play to move in and out. So what you're going to have to do is take your little Allen wrench and back these out a little bit to give yourself some play. And I'll show you in a second a little bit more why this is so important. Back these out enough to where these will be able to spin on their own freely, and that'll give you enough play to where you can slide them back and forth. So let me show you what these look like on the backside. They're round enough to go through, but the flat edges are going to sit within the flat edges here of the track. So you can see they're going to slide in here, and they're going to slide down just a little bit, just enough like that. So loose them enough where you have play, but not so loose where the screw's going to fall out. As you'll see here, you're going to have to pull the panel back a little bit to get both these brackets into place. Again, put the panels on top of the bracket. Do this to all 3 brackets going back to the cab. I would recommend getting all 3 of these L brackets in place before putting the screws in down, because as you saw there, I need to get kind of back behind this, and I want to be able to pull this back. And if I screw one in up here, it's going to make it harder to put the last 2 in first. So went ahead and put all 3 of those brackets in, the front, middle, and the back. Once I had those into position, I went ahead and put the vertical screw down through that bracket into the wall panel. Of course, then I went and did the same thing on the passenger side of the truck as well. And once I had those done, and only once I had those done, then I went ahead and screwed the circular brackets in tight to the track. But make sure to fasten those to the down panel first to make sure the holes are going to line up. Next, we're going to install these little funky looking brackets. You're going to put a big bolt down into the base piece. Now, where you're going to get that is down from the truck. This is where you're going to use the little trim tool they give you, and you're going to pop out this little piece of plastic. Obviously, I've removed my bed liner to do this. I'm still hopeful I can put that bed liner back down when I'm done, but for now, you had to pull it out to take these out. So to take these bolts out, they include this little wrench here. This is going to make it a little difficult. It's totally possible, but there's also Allen head in here, so I'm going to go ahead and use a big 3/8 Allen to pull that out. This is a large bolt that is in very tight, so you're going to need some muscle to break it loose. And once you pull it out, go ahead and put it right back in with the same way you got it out. I just went one by one and pulled all 4 of these out. And of course, all 4 of them have that little plastic cover you have to pop out first. One quick tip when you're getting these in, make sure you get these flush with the truck. There is a little extended circle here to go down into the brim of the truck, so make sure you get this flat. When putting them back in, do make sure to get these very tight. They are holding the bed to your frame. Only 2 steps to go. Now you're going to find the 2 pieces that are going to go in the back of the truck and screw these together with the same bolts like you did before. Again, I'd recommend starting them all by hand. Now that we got these 2 pieces put together to make one piece, we're going to put this in the back of the truck. I'm going to show you here why we have better lighting. You're going to put a set of 2 screws in 4 different spots. Down here, 2 in the middle, and then 1's there on the end. You're going to have a different bracket up here on the top. It's going to be this odd angular bracket. Obviously, this little slanted part is going to go to the back of the truck with this up. And if you notice here, this also has an angled bracket to where it's going to go on the truck like this. So when you get this on, you'll see there's another screw that we've already put into the bracket on the bottom that we're going to take out here and put back into the top. I am going to make sure that I put the panel here behind the brackets because the female threads are actually in the panel, so they'll have to go through the hole of the bracket and set into this. Once I got the panel into place behind the brackets, I started by again hand threading 1 bolt into each bracket first before moving on to the second. So this is that bracket I was talking about. I want to make sure the slanted part's in the back and the angle part's going to go out and set on the top of the panel we just installed. But I am going to have to pull this screw out because this is going to have to go through this bracket and this bracket to seat down into that thread where it's going to set something just like this. So as I said, I went ahead and backed that screw out that I put in earlier, then went ahead and put it back through once the bracket was lined up on top of it. Again, forgive my redundancy, be very careful not to cross thread these. It'll be really easy to do. Then I moved over to the other side where I took a slightly different approach. I still removed that screw out of the top, but I decided to anchor this to the back mount first while I had a little bit more room and then put that vertical screw back down into the side panel. Then I went back behind and put the second screw in that lower bracket on each one. Once I had both screws in each bracket finger tight, I snugged them with the wrench. So I've got them all in. My first instinct is I really love them, but I'm going to walk through some of the pluses and some of the minuses because there are a few that go along with this. This will take you about an hour to install, maybe an hour and a half, possibly even under an hour if you're really skilled with your hand tools and things like that. A couple of the negatives, and these aren't true negatives, they're more of like some of the tricky things that would go with this. You do have to be very careful putting the screws into the female anchor points. The screws are a decent quality, but they're really easy to cross thread if you're trying to force them in. And that's not so much the quality of the screw, but the angle in which you have to put them in. So I'd highly recommend when you go to put your screws in, start them by finger and make sure you're actually putting them in totally straight and not with that Allen wrench because they will cross thread. If they do, it's going to cause you a bunch of problems. The second is just the nature of what you're doing. You're installing panels in the side and the back of your truck, so you are making the usable space of your bed slightly smaller. However, it's still 4 feet wide, so you can still put a 4-foot sheet in here. Along the same lines of less space in the bed of the truck, let me point out particularly the back one here that's closest to the cab. So as you get in here, I was a little disappointed in how far it stood away from the cab. Now, I'm going to turn this into a potential positive here. I'll talk about it in a second. But as you'll notice here, there is a good sized gap. That's probably a good inch between where the metal meets the bed of the truck. I was expecting this to be totally flush. Now, it does have to stand off a little bit because you need to be able to hook things in these squares, but it's still not a whole inch. That's more than what I felt like was needed to. Now, with all that being said, it does create a space. If you had something thin and you need it protected, you could slide something in this gap and it would keep it protected. So I'm going to try that. I'm probably going to give it a month or so and see which I use more. To be honest, I haven't put too many things in my truck where I felt like I was limited, where I needed more space down here. For plexiglass from time to time, I'm always worried about protecting it. I think it would fit here in this little gap. So that's probably something I'll look to see and I'll let you know. So subscribe to the channel and I'll let you know what I decide to do with this. The other thing that was a little disappointing, again, it's just a small thing, is there's not a good anchor point on the top of this panel. So there's 4 along the bottoms, and there's some up in the corners both ways. But there's nothing here in the middle. So you can see here, if I really push hard against this, I can get a little bit of play. Now that's not terrible, but I would probably be careful about putting really heavy things on this back panel. Not a huge deal, but thought you'd like to know. So at the beginning of this video, I told you I had 4 questions regarding fit in my truck. Number 1 was the Cyber tent. This will totally interfere with your Cyber tent. I do need a bracket back here that won't fit now. But that being said, I think I have a way to work around it. So if you subscribe, we'll get to that when it becomes spring. But I will have to move some brackets to put your tent in, but I think so few of you have that. I don't think that's a huge conflict. Number 2, I had wondered, would they coexist with these quarter panels I had? And they do. They totally fit. The anchor points of the quarter panels as these downs on the side do fit together, both of which I got from Test Studio, so I was hoping they would fit, and they do. Thirdly, I wondered, would my Molle panel bed divider still fit with these new walls? And it does. It still fits just about anywhere you want along the way. These installs do leave several openings. A good probably 3/4 of it is still open. The only thing that's not open is anywhere, of course, where these anchors are, but they're at the very back and the very front, which you probably wouldn't put it in the most place, and you just have one in the middle. So as long as you can work around that, there's still plenty of places where this can click in. There's also plenty of room on the side, and you could actually argue this is a better fit now. Less things would be able to get by there, because that's actually a smaller gap. So does this still work with those? Totally does. And the last question I had was, will my bed liner still fit in here? And the answer is, well, kind of. Let me show you what I mean. It fits under the edge of the panels all the way back. So that part is totally fine. In the back though is where these brackets, as you can see, they push because they're out from the back of the truck an inch. You can see they're curled a little bit, but that part's not a big deal, which means back here in the front, this lip is flipped up just a little bit. You'll notice it more here as I drop the bed down. So there used to be a gap of probably about that much. Now this totally covers. So is it a seamless fit? Well, no, it's not, but will it still work? It absolutely will. Here's one last look at the bed liner with the tailgate shut. Let's talk now the plus sides, because there's a whole lot more of those. But first of all, it's gonna protect your truck. I've been looking into the last month or so what kind of bed liners I could get to help support this, because this is just like a plastic liner inside, and I had gouged this in several spots. I mean, like 10 or 11 spots in here I've got decent gouges in because I use my truck like a truck since I'm a tradesman. The second plus side is there's a lot more functionality with your truck now. In addition to protection, I put things on my roof racks quite a bit, but I'm always looking for tie points underneath. I had been able to use those in the back, but not always here towards the end of the truck. Now I have several spots. If I can put a bungee cord or a strap around something, I can strap it down and grab into any one of now hundreds of different spots. So that part makes it more functional. And lastly, I'm going to show you a bunch of different ways of how you can mount things to these Molle panels, but I'm just going to show you inside where there's better lighting. Basically, you can use whatever works best for you. Let me show you what a couple things I found that work really nice. I'll leave the link of it down in the description below, but I got these from Amazon. This one here is just a Velcro strap with a little clip on it. And I got here, again, it's more of a snap, but it's a wider one that's going to take up a few of those little panels. Then one I also use a lot also has the little snap. You can see here, this has like a little ring that you can slide things into. You'd like to hang through something like a T-handle tool that you might have. One of the more useful and practical things I found is Velcro. You can buy little Velcro strips like this at Home Depot. They're usually meant to help wrap up extension cords, but they work good for your Molle panel. You just slide one side of this through and pull it back out on another side. You can slide them through in something like this, and then this will give you all this little level of what you can use to strap. You can strap something larger, or in this case, you can strap something much smaller, or wrap it double to where it's gonna hold something a little bit heavier, hold it a little bit stronger with double the Velcro tie. Also from Home Depot is one of these little straps here. Again, Velcro has the little kind of a camping type latch on it. These are really nice to hang up on the back, especially if you want to hold things like a briefcase or a purse or a diaper bag, anything like that. I know I personally hold my little Type 1 charger that I keep in the back of my truck on this all the time. These next two things I'll show you, although they're not designed for Molle panels, I actually find they're some of my go-to things because of just how simple they are. I have these little clips here. Again, I got these on Amazon. These are some of my favorites also. They're really cool here because these particular ones have the little Cybertruck logo in them, but that little clip there will slide right onto the panel. All different things you can hang them, and these are easy to move from place to place. You can get these anywhere. It's just a little elastic knob with the little ball inside, as you'll see here. These are nice to kind of slip in. They can kind of go around and they'll tug and they'll hold really easy. And I just kind of leave these in there. The ball doesn't like to fit through the little square of the Molle panel, So it's really nice. These can just hang all the time waiting for you to use them. Next, I have these little wire ties. They're coated in like a silicone, but they're really handy because these can obviously fit in between those panels. And once you have everything tight, you can just twist them like you would a twist tie and get them tight like this. This allows you to hold things that are really small, really large, or even several things clumped up together. And again, I just leave these on the rack all the time. Another benefit you'll have is anything with a hook built into it will also fit on one of these panels. You'll see I can hang my tape measure on here. There's a bunch of knives that have a hook. Here I'm hooking on a flashlight. Even my little 12-bolt drill will hook on there with ease. So final verdict. I absolutely do love this. I would recommend it to anybody. And I do think it's a quality enough thing that I'll be using this for the next 10 years. It means it's probably a one-time purchase. And when you consider that, the price really isn't that bad at all. It truly changes the look of your truck in a good way. It's going to protect it, and it's going to add so much more functionality to it. As always, use my channel name Charisma to get the maximum discount possible when you punch that into the promo code when purchasing anything off the Test Studio website, including anything Molle related of the 4 different sections now I've gotten from them into my Cybertruck.